Hello everyone and welcome back to Proof Gaming. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new map of Skyhammer that Arena has just updated and seeing the community's reaction and going in detail of what they've actually changed. So let's get started. The first thing they decided to change, and in my opinion the most important and noticeable, is the actual layout of Skyhammer. They've actually sealed up the whole entire border, so you can no longer fall off the edges and die and be one-shot, which in my opinion was fairly cheesy. And if you run especially mesmers or necromancers, knockbacks and fears were your enemy on this map, and thanks to the new design they're no longer a problem or an issue. But then again, you lose a little bit of a flavor because you're not really in the heat of the battle and you're not worried about your actual positioning. I feel like the actual old map allowed you to be more your senses are more heightened when you were on an edge. That's because you didn't want to get one shot and you didn't want to look like a fool. I remember many times going on the bottom and then looking at map chat and someone saying scrub, and to that I say you can no longer do that. So it's a pro and a con in my opinion, but we will discuss this further on and more in depth a little bit later. But moving on to the next one. Secondly, they decided to basically take away all of those little pads that would break and then you would fall. I say mostly because there are still two left, one at point A and one at point C. So there are still two left in total in the entire map. But they're not necessarily game changers anymore. They're just something for players to get a height advantage or disadvantage depending on the way you look at it. But you can just really drop down at the points, and that's basically it. I mean, it's still fun to do, but I don't really see it being useful I don't really see it being used. But that's just my opinion. So again, you can't fall off anymore. And this is just another thing that they decided to change, along with the putting a wall around the border. They took away those little pads that would break and you'd fall. They also decided to change an actual point, point B. If you are in a Skyhammer map, you will probably notice that point B visually looks different. They took away those little side edges. They're still there, but they changed them in the sense where they now are more on the outer edges of point B. They're no longer in that little square positioning. And visually, I think this looks better. It still works basically the same way, but it relieves the clutter and you're no longer dealing with camera issues and clipping, and overall it's much more open and you have a wider battlefield now. So in my opinion, great change. I didn't expect them to change point B at all, but now that I've played a game in Skyhammer, I now know why. It is much more smooth and less issues with the camera. Now that we've gone over those little things, in my opinion they're little, we now move on to the main event, the actual Skyhammer itself. If you notice when you first go for the Skyhammer, you'll notice that the actual surrogate is not open. It's not activated. They changed it so during certain increments or intervals in the actual game, the Skyhammer will open, and then you have to fight on a node, which, in my opinion, is brilliant. It's basically another node that they added. So you'll fight for the node, and whichever team captures that node, the Skyhammer will activate and then neutralize all 3 points. So it's a game changer. And if you already have all 3 points, you're good. But it's very rare that you have all 3 points. So it's a game changer in a sense, or just a way of making sure that you have all 3 points. So mechanically, it's different. So you no longer rain down death and terror on enemies, which was a bit. It was the definitive mechanic that would decide if you won or lost a map or a game. If you had the Skyhammer, basically a win. If you didn't have the Skyhammer, basically a lose. Because if you got hit, it'd take half or more of your health, especially if you're an elementalist and you're really squishy. You'd be down. So in a sense, if you were losing, it would help you. If you're winning, it'd just be overkill. So I feel like this is a much more fair system where if someone is not, if a team is not doing so well, you won't necessarily like kill someone. You will just get the point. You will get the nodes back. So mechanically, very different, but very creative, I think. I would have never thought that they would just neutralize the points. But that's the Skyhammer itself. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the Skyhammer platform is the only area where you can be knocked off. And they also implemented these little walls that can be broken. Like they're like the little platforms that break, but they're vertical now, so you can hide behind them for cover. They're not that useful because you can always just go around them. They're fairly easy to go around. But if you're in a sticky situation, you only have like 1,000 health left, and you just go behind them, heal up, and it gives you some more time to actually survive. So that's basically Skyhammer, or all the changes that they've decided to make. In my opinion, overall, great map. It's made it much more competitive, and much more cohesive, and not necessarily as scary or terrible when you see it on the PvP select or map select screen. I remember when I would see Skyhammer, I would never ever want to play it, and when it got picked, I just groaned. But now I want to pick it. I want to click it, and it's the funny thing is that I never get in a map. I've only been in one match. So now that I want it, I don't get it. But when I didn't want it, I got it all the time. That's just how my luck rolls. But I feel like Arena is taking certain steps to make it a much more competitive map. And it's always great to have variety. Like, there were only like 4 maps that were necessarily competitive. Legacy of the Foe Fire, Forest of Niflhel, Battle of Kylo. Am I missing one? Oh my god, I'm missing one. Legacy, I already said, anyway, 3 for now, off the top of my mind. But they're making steps to make Skyhammer more competitive. And that's what I want to see, because I have started to PvP a lot more often. And when the Skyhammer got picked, it was more of a sad thing, because I didn't want it, but I knew that it was they worked on it, so they should be rewarded with that reward of making it competitive, because that's what PvP should be. Now to talk about the community's reaction and some criticisms that they have of the Skyhammer map. From my understanding, or my standpoint of what I've seen on the forums, most of it is pretty positive. But there are some issues that some people have, but the vast majority are saying that they like the changes. There are always people that are like, oh, the previous Skyhammer was better. There's always people that say original things are better. But the vast majority are saying that they are for the changes. But a lot of the side that I agree with that are having a little bit of an issue with the new Skyhammer map is that it's lost its flavor. I've heard that, I'm pretty sure if you watch other videos on Skyhammer, they've mentioned this. People are saying this is mostly like a Kylo, but with a different skin. Especially because Kylo has trebuchets. Now we have Skyhammer, or the revamped Skyhammer. It's fairly similar. But what I would say with Kylo is that Kylo had 2 trebuchets, while Skyhammer only has 1 Skyhammer. But they're saying it's the same. There's no flavor, and I'm guessing the flavor that they're talking about is the fact that you could have gotten knocked off of the edges, or the platforms could have shattered and you would have fallen to your death. Now, the people that are actually saying this are probably the people that were doing it to others and knocking them off and making them pissed. But I have to take a step back and realize that I partially agree with them. Would I want them to change it back to the old system where you could get knocked off? No, because I do much more prefer this setup of Skyhammer. I don't even think it should be in beta, because if you notice when you're actually selecting Skyhammer, it says beta Skyhammer. I feel like this is finished, in my opinion. Yes, there's certain things that they can tweak and change to make it better. You can always tweak and change stuff. But I am all for this version of Skyhammer. I feel that the places where you can get knocked off, which is only at the Skyhammer platform, make it special. So you can still knock people off, but you have to be much more strategic about it and know positioning. With the old map, you could just be anywhere and just get knocked off. You didn't really have to think about it too much. You could just get knocked off. You're just done. You could walk off. I remember teleporting or blinking somewhere and I get knocked off. And I'm like, oh, well, that was stupid. And I feel this makes it much more of a specific mechanic where you have to know your build and you have to use your skills wisely and watch your recharges, watch your positioning, watch your enemy, watch if your opponent has stability. Stability is a major boon that can prevent knockbacks. So you have to, and provides more teamwork. You can probably just burst all the stability off at once if you coordinate with your team properly. So I feel like limiting the areas where you can get knocked off is key. Um, the only place you can get knocked off is Skyhammer. So I feel like if they maybe introduce like one or two other areas where you can get knocked off, that can make it more deadly. And a little bit more flavorful. So it doesn't lose that entire flair, but you still get that sense of you are in danger at all times. So those are my opinions and the opinions of the community of the community's feedback. So Arena, good job. I loved the map. I loved playing, even though in this match that you're watching right now, I did lose. But in general, great map. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd say the only things really to change would to add or to take away some of the certain areas where it is blocked off, possibly around like maybe the points to make it a little bit more flavorful. But those are my opinions. And if you have any more opinions, go to the forums on Guild Wars 2. I will be there. I'll be looking at stuff, seeing what other people have to see. So I highly suggest going to the forums, putting in your own input, and commenting down below to tell me how you feel that the new Skyhammer is. If you've played it, feedback. If you haven't played it, what are your expectations? If you've heard other people play it and other people's feedback, comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I thoroughly enjoyed making this video, and I finally got into a game of Skyhammer. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Like and comment down below, and if you haven't subscribed already, highly suggest it. It does keep me motivated. And I'll see you guys in the next video. You can just watch the rest of this gameplay, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Kroof out. Bye.
The enemy has point A. The enemy has taken point B.
Accelerating. Help me. I'm hurt. Help me. Hurry. Rejoining the fight.
Cores installed. Charging the laser.
Accelerating.
Cannon operational. Ready for targeting coordinates.
Energy level too low. Leave me. Pain everywhere.
The enemy has taken point B.